GTM. What's going on, everyone? Happy Thursday. I hope you're well and doing great. I think so the question is, was it a long night for you? Did you go to bed? You didn't even care? Or were you not able to sleep? And if you were not able to sleep, that means that you are over positioned, that you are way over leveraged. Now's not a time for leverage at all. Experts only. Spot only. You got to be very careful. People are wondering, is now the time to move into alts? Let's start this off today. Listen, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I am so glad that you're here. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back. We're going to be looking at a few different things today. We'll start off with the battle for the mid-cycle low that's taking place right now. It's highlighted. Let me jump over to the 3-day. It's highlighted over here. In green dot, and you can see that price wicked down all the way overnight. It was an ugly, substantial sell-off. If I wasn't watching, I was sleeping. I'm adequately positioned. I am in a position of power, and I began dollar cost averaging the Bitcoin here, my first purchase since December at 35,000. I want to talk about that, but in the near term, right, what's most important right now to the markets is the battle for the mid-cycle low to see whether or not we are able to, on a closing basis, close above it or below it. I imagine it could go either way. Assuming that you believe that the high was in April, this is where I believe the structure high is. And if that's the case, then potentially we are towards an area here where in the past Bitcoin has capitulated. I mean, this does look like capitulation that's occurring right now, only it could go lower. Doesn't resemble the capitulations we saw in the past in the magnitude. It's been the volatility has been diminished, subdued so far. We'll see what happens. And if we do see some type of recovery, by the summer, again, trading around that $32,000 Bitcoin, and then sometime in the new year, if Bitcoin is trading somewhere around, our expected target is $58,000. Could something like this be developing? And then as we're getting ready for the 2024 halving, do you think that price is higher than it is today? Or do you think that that price in the halving will be lower than $30,000 Bitcoin? I think that's the question. One of the questions you want to be asking yourself, even if we see significant further downside on Bitcoin. If you believe that actually price made the higher high in November, if I go off past structures, there's a lot of time left before Bitcoin capitulates. That might not, maybe the Fed continues tightening and risk just can't even get off the floor. There's even like nothing more than maybe a 30% counter trend rally. And then all of a sudden we have real capitulation. It's possible, for sure it's possible. If something like that's occurring, do you believe, and I have over here a low with $18,000, $19,000. I think that's beyond that, then things are broken. $10,000 Bitcoin keeps me up at night. That's something that could really become a reality if we were to lose an important level like that. That's why I have this just little schismatic over here showing in that area. I'm trying to give something that's as real as possible for expectations. If that was the case, though, do you think that this area here today, Bitcoin $30,000, do you think before the halving in 2024, where do you think Bitcoin is trading? Do you think it's trading higher, about, or lower than $30,000? Historically, it's trading about 50% off of the all-time high. That would put Bitcoin somewhere around $35,000. I mean, if you do believe that and think that, then at that point, from now until then, that's a really good time to be accumulating Bitcoin. A lot of people right now are really fearful. It's because they're not coming from a position of power. They are more focused in on their hopes and dreams of what they want to occur. And my aspirations were much greater. I don't think anyone thought that the cycle was peaking in April. And I don't think that anyone thought that Bitcoin this cycle was going to peak under $100,000. At least my expectations were different. And I had a de-risk down. And because I'm de-risked down, even though I don't like Bitcoin coming off 60% off its all-time high, and especially when I have 90% of my net worth into it, but at the same time, this is a time that people will look back on and they will say that was the best lifetime opportunity I had to accumulate Bitcoin. And right now that fear is so strong that I think people are not really seeing things clearly. And I just want to help right now offer the same opportunity that I did when Bitcoin was trading around that pocket between $7,000 and $9,000, where we got a lot of people aware of the bullish case for Bitcoin. They were able to accumulate positions over about a year's time, right? And that's a similar situation we're in right now. If you have the opportunity to accumulate Bitcoin at these prices, even if it lasts for another year, this is the time. So a lot of people watching the 200-day weekly moving average. Bitcoin has never closed below that on a monthly basis. Look, it comes in right now around like a little bit lower than the trend lines that we look at. Chart up the other day. By the way, I've been looking at risk, waiting for Bitcoin to bottom over here. We've been waiting for a while. CTM 2.0 has buy side only on the sidelines for an extended period of time. Again, it's just absolutely fantastic. Even over here, this was the FOMC meeting, right? And that initial knee-jerk reaction to be kept out of the market over here, Bitcoin dumping. And by the time, look, the next time there's a buy signal, like usually what happens off of the bottoms, it's not like a V and that goes straight up. It could certainly happen. I want to, next time a green signal comes, I want to participate. And who knows, that could be a really nice trade. But it's shortly thereafter usually that you start seeing the trend dynamics change and then Bitcoin start putting up some gains. Because we know that Bitcoin is approximately now, what is it? Is it 60% off its all-time high? 63%. Anyone who's trying to call the bottom, I mean, it certainly looks like potentially that we could look back and call that capitulation. Like, you see, like, that looks similar to, yeah, I mean, that's straight down. That looks like capitulation. Whether or not the volume's there, I don't know. I don't follow volume. I don't pay attention to it. Usually on areas like this, you see really high volume. My expectations are that we cover them every day, and I feel that we're pretty strong. I'm really trying to make the message to everyone, and you all know here that since January it was do not dollar cost average Bitcoin at this point. If you can build up reserves, whether it's gold or dollars, that's the thing to do for sure. Cautious. And right now, that's no longer the case. Now I think this is the time to begin dollar cost averaging, just bringing back part of CTM course material, that foundational strategy. Starting CTM 2.0, we had that buy entry and a nice 8% gain or whatever the case might be. And then a couple of small losses eating outside of that gain. And then since then been on the sidelines. And that's as strong as you can get. This chart over here is pretty neat. And that green line over there, what that is, a trend line. I inverted the chart like this. So I just inverted the chart. And then I just took a trend line and I cloned it. So it goes upwards. All I did was clone one of these lines. And you can see that it's the same exact angle. And that line is like the line in the sand. That line at this point in time, if that breaks, then wow, I think that something's really wrong on Bitcoin. I don't know what the recovery is going to look like. And it's hard to imagine if the adoption rate continues on Bitcoin, that price would deviate so far away. We'll see. I mean, again, right now, Fed is tightening until something breaks. We'll have to see if something breaks, what that looks like. Right now, I think people think that it's going to break right away, and the markets are acting like it. Except to me, it potentially what we're looking at is the markets acting like sometime in 2018. And that's when the Fed did have to pivot. And I know it seems very soon for the Fed to pivot when inflation is such a big deal. Well, different things start being priced into the market and people positioning differently. So anyway, really need to look at once you start seeing anytime, this is our yellow line over here. I just went ahead and made it a dot for a second. But this is the yellow line, and this is where I use as a marker for what my expectations of price would be. So guess what? Most of the time, 90% of the time, I hope to say that Bitcoin's price is above, because it spends 90% of its time above that line, and it spends in the past, about 150 days below. It's below right now. I think this opportunity, you could see the trend lines over here And each time we get those trend line breaks, but those trend line breaks all occurring right around that yellow area have offered the greatest opportunity. That's why I think right now we are in a golden accumulation zone. And the risk here is that we lose this green line over here. And if we lost that green line over there, there's really not much support once you lose this area. Let's call it, I know a lot of people look at the all-time high, the previous cycle all-time high, but you could see where my mouse is, and you could see over here resistance, and then over there in support. And I would say that's the next important area of support for Bitcoin to hold, just right around $17,000. If it wasn't able to do that, and if that's happening already, something is very wrong. Something's very wrong. There are people looking for 85% drawdowns, though, and they're looking for something like $10,000 Bitcoin. And I imagine it's a possibility, but I also imagine if that happened, then, well, I guess every possibility is open. So until we break down below this line, we had some major points of reference, 53,000, 35,000. This would be another one breaking below. I'm just going to call it right now, $21,000. Whatever it is, we would, I'm not zooming in at this moment. At that point, that would be another huge level where who knows what's happening in the world. We'll have to keep an eye on it. My expectations are that sometime by the summer, we have been able to put into a bottom in, and that we are trading somewhere around, $32,000 Bitcoin, higher than we are right now by September. And if that's happening, that's 2 or 3 months away. I'll use that as my next marker, see how that translates, and then we'll be able to review what happens next going forward.